I don't remember the exact moment I realized I was different. It wasn't one conversation. It wasn't one forgotten birthday or one missed game. It was 1,000 small things over years that added up to a truth I didn't want to see. My parents treated me like I was something they had to manage, like I was an item on a checklist. Feed her, clothe her, make sure she doesn't embarrass us. But my sister Emma? She was the sun, and they orbited around her. I'm not saying this to sound bitter. I'm saying it because it's just what it was. When I brought home straight A's, my dad would nod and say, "Good, that's what we expect." When Emma brought home a B-, they'd celebrate. They'd take her out for ice cream and tell her how proud they were that she tried her best. When I asked for help with college applications, my mom handed me a booklet and said, "You're smart, you'll figure it out." When Emma asked, they hired a private consultant. I learned early that if I wanted something, I had to get it myself. So I did. I worked, I saved, I stayed quiet, and I told myself it didn't matter. But it did. Emma got her first car at 16, brand new, a white SUV with heated seats and a backup camera. I didn't get a car. I borrowed my mom's old sedan when I needed it, and I paid for my own gas. Emma went to a private university 3 states away, full tuition paid, housing included, spending money deposited into her account every month. I went to the state school 20 minutes from home. I lived at home to save money. I worked part-time at a campus library. I took out loans. I graduated with $35,000 in debt. Emma graduated with 0. She switched majors 3 times: art history, marketing, communications. I stayed in accounting. I finished in 4 years. When I got my first job offer, my dad said, "That's good. You'll be stable." When Emma got an unpaid internship at a boutique PR firm, my mom threw her a dinner party. I'm not exaggerating. They invited family friends. They toasted her. My mom cried and said she always knew Emma would do something creative and beautiful. I sat at the end of the table and smiled. No one asked me about my job. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't intentional. It was just the way it was. Emma was the dream. I was the backup plan. But there was one person who saw me, Grandpa Leonard. He was my dad's father, quiet, thoughtful, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. He never called out my parents directly. I don't think that was his style. But he noticed. On my 16th birthday, when my parents gave me a card with $20 in it and threw Emma a surprise party 2 months later, Grandpa took me to lunch, just the 2 of us. He handed me an envelope. Inside was $200 and a note that said, "For something that matters to you." When I graduated high school, my parents came to the ceremony but left right after. They had to take Emma to tour a college campus. Grandpa stayed. He took me to dinner. He asked about my plans. He told me he was proud. He did that a lot. Small things, a phone call on a random Tuesday, a birthday card that actually had a message written inside. He never made a big deal out of it, but I felt it. He was the only one who made me feel like I wasn't invisible, and I loved him for that. I graduated college with honors. My parents came to the ceremony. They took a photo with me. My mom posted it on Facebook with the caption, "So proud of our girl." Then we went to lunch at a chain restaurant. They talked about Emma's new apartment most of the time. I didn't mind. I was used to it. I got a job at a mid-sized firm. Good benefits, decent pay. I moved into a small apartment with a roommate. I paid off my car loan in 2 years. I started chipping away at my student debt. I was doing fine. Emma, meanwhile, quit the PR internship after 6 months. She moved back home. She said she wanted to explore her options. My parents supported her, fully. She got a part-time job at a yoga studio. She talked about maybe getting certified as an instructor, maybe starting a blog. My mom said she was finding herself. When I suggested Emma could work full-time and save money, my dad said I was unfair. "Not everyone is like you," he said. "Not everyone is built to just work and grind." I let it go. Then, 2 years later, Emma asked me for money. She wanted to take a trip to Bali with friends.
She said it would be transformative. She asked me for $1,500. I said no. My mom called me selfish. That was the word she used, selfish. I didn't argue. I just stopped answering their calls for a while. When I got engaged, I called my parents to tell them. They said, "Congratulations." They asked a few questions about my partner. Then my mom said, "Are you thinking something small?" I said yes, a backyard ceremony, maybe 30 people. Simple and meaningful. She said, "That sounds nice. Very you." I didn't realize what she meant until 3 months later. Emma got engaged. The announcement was huge. Photos, a ring that must have cost thousands, a party at a country club. My parents were glowing. At the party, my dad stood up and gave a toast. He talked about how Emma had always been a light in their lives, how her fiancé was lucky, how they couldn't wait to give her the wedding she deserved. Then my mom announced they'd be covering the entire wedding. Budget, $60,000. I felt my stomach drop. I wasn't jealous of the money. Not really. I was hurt by the difference. Because when I told them I was engaged, they said, "That's nice." When Emma told them, they threw a party and wrote a check. At the end of the night, my mom pulled me aside and said, "You understand, right? Emma's always dreamed of a big wedding, and you've always been so independent. You'll figure it out." I nodded. I went home. I didn't cry. I just felt tired. Emma's wedding planning consumed the next year. Every family gathering became a discussion about flowers, DJs, seating charts. I tried to be supportive. I showed up. I smiled. But then, 2 months before the wedding, Emma called me. She said the floral budget had gone over. She wanted to upgrade to a more expensive option. She asked me to contribute $3,000. I said no. She was shocked. "It's my wedding," she said. I said, "I know, and Mom and Dad are paying for it." She said, "But you're my sister. Family helps family." I said, "I helped myself through college. I'm helping myself now. I can't afford to fund your floral upgrades." She hung up on me. An hour later, my mom called. She said I was being unfair. She said Emma looked up to me. She said I was breaking her heart. I stayed calm. I said, "Mom, I've never asked you for a dime since I turned 18. I've worked for everything I have. I'm not going into debt for flowers." She said, "You've always been so cold." That was the moment I realized it didn't matter what I did, I would always be the problem. So I stopped trying to fix it. I went low contact. I still answered texts. I was polite. But I stopped showing up. And honestly, it was a relief. 6 months later, I got the call. Grandpa Leonard had passed away. It was sudden, a heart attack. He was 83. I cried harder than I expected, because he was the only one who ever really saw me. The funeral was small, family only. My parents were somber. Emma cried loudly. She kept saying how much she'd miss him. I stood quietly in the back. After the service, Emma complained to my mom that the timing was inconvenient. She and her husband were supposed to leave for their honeymoon that week. My mom comforted her. No one asked me how I was doing. I stayed for the reception. I helped clean up. Then I left. I thought that was the end of it. But a week later, I got a call from a lawyer's office. They said Grandpa's will was being read, and I needed to be there. I didn't think much of it. I assumed it was a formality. The lawyer's office was small and quiet. My parents sat on one side. Emma sat next to them. I sat across from them. The lawyer was an older man with glasses and a calm voice. He explained that Grandpa had been very specific about his wishes. My dad nodded. Of course, Dad was always organized. The lawyer opened a folder. He began to read. To my son and daughter-in-law, I leave the sum of $10,000 to be divided equally. My mom blinked. My dad frowned. The lawyer continued. To my granddaughter Emma, I leave $5,000 with the hope that she uses it to build a future rooted in purpose. Emma's face fell. That's it? The lawyer didn't react. He turned the page. To my granddaughter, he said my name, I leave the remainder of my estate. This includes my home, my savings, and all investments. Total estimated value, $920,000. The room went silent. I couldn't breathe. My mother's voice came out as a whisper. That can't be right. The lawyer looked at her calmly. It is. My dad leaned forward. There has to be a mistake. He wouldn't. There is no mistake, the lawyer said. Mr. Leonard updated this will 8 months ago. He was of sound mind. It was witnessed and notarized. Emma started crying. Not sad crying, angry crying. This isn't fair, she said. He barely even knew her. I felt numb. The lawyer slid a sealed envelope across the table. He left this for you, he said to me. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. I didn't read it out loud, but I'll tell you what it said. My dear girl, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm sorry I couldn't say this to your face. I've watched you for years. I've watched the way you carry yourself, the way you work, the way you stay kind even when you're hurt. I've also watched the way your parents treat you. I won't speak ill of my son, but I will say this. They were wrong. You were never the burden. You were never the one who needed to prove yourself. You were always enough. I'm leaving you everything because I know you'll use it wisely. Not because you're perfect, but because you understand what it means to build something real. Don't let them guilt you. Don't let them take this from you. You've earned the right to live without apologizing. I'm proud of you. I always was. Grandpa. I folded the letter carefully. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just looked at my parents. My mom was staring at me like I'd stolen something. My dad looked away. Emma was still crying. And I realized something. This wasn't about the money. It was about being seen. For the first time in my life, someone had chosen me, and I wasn't going to apologize for it. The call started that night. My mom, you need to share that money with your sister. It's the right thing to do. My dad, your grandfather clearly wasn't thinking straight. This is going to tear the family apart. Emma, you've always been jealous of me. Now you're taking everything. I didn't answer most of them, but eventually I called my mom back. I kept my voice calm. I said, I'm not giving Emma the inheritance. Grandpa left it to me. That was his choice. She said, he didn't know how much we've already done for you. I almost laughed. What did you do for me, Mom? She was silent. I continued. I paid for college. I paid for my car. I paid for my wedding. I've been financially independent since I was 18. So tell me, what exactly did you do? She hung up. My dad tried a different approach. He asked me to lunch. He said, I know things weren't always equal, but your sister needs help. You don't. I said, I need help. I've always needed help. You just never saw it. He didn't know what to say. I stood up. I'm keeping the money, Dad, and I'm going to use it the way Grandpa wanted. If you can't accept that, I understand, but I'm done apologizing for not being Emma. I left, and I felt lighter than I had in years. Word spread fast in the family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, most of them stayed out of it, but a few took sides. At a family gathering 2 months later, my cousin's wedding, my Aunt Carol cornered me. She was loud. She'd had a few drinks. She said, in front of at least a dozen people, you should be ashamed. Your grandfather would be disgusted if he knew you were hoarding that money while your sister struggles. I stayed calm. I pulled out my phone. I'd prepared for this. I opened a folder of documents I'd been keeping: receipts, bank records, publicly available financial data. I projected my voice just enough for everyone nearby to hear. Emma's college tuition, $240,000, paid in full by our parents. Her car, $38,000. Her wedding, $60,000. Her credit cards, rent support, and personal expenses over the years, conservatively another $50,000. Total investment in Emma, approximately $388,000. I paused. My college tuition, $0 from them. I graduated with $35,000 in debt. My car, I bought myself. My wedding, I paid for. Total investment in me, $0. I looked at my aunt. So tell me again how I'm the one being selfish. The room was silent. No one said a word. I put my phone away. I walked out. I didn't need to stay. I'd said what needed to be said. I didn't cut my family off completely, but I set boundaries. I told my parents I was open to a relationship, but only if it was built on respect, not guilt, not obligation. I told Emma I loved her, but I wouldn't fund her lifestyle. I stopped going to every family event. I stopped answering every call. And slowly, things shifted. My dad sent me a text one day. It just said, "I'm sorry." It wasn't much, but it was something. My mom struggled more. She didn't apologize, but she stopped asking me for money. Emma eventually moved on. She stopped calling me cruel. She just stopped calling. And that was okay. I built a life I was proud of, a life that didn't require their approval. I used the inheritance carefully. I paid off my student loans. I paid off my partner's medical debt. We bought a house, nothing huge, just a place that felt like ours. I started a small business, something I'd always dreamed of, but never had the capital for. And I set up a scholarship in Grandpa Leonard's name. It goes to first-generation college students who work while studying, students who don't have family money, students like me. Every year, I get letters from the recipients. They tell me what the scholarship meant to them. And every time, I think of Grandpa Leonard. I think about how he saw me when no one else did, and I make sure I see them too. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't still hurt sometimes. There are moments when I see a mother and daughter laughing together, and I feel that old ache. But I don't live in it anymore, because I learned something important. Your worth isn't determined by how much people invest in you. It's determined by how you invest in yourself. I was never the burden my parents made me feel like. I was just the child they didn't know how to see. And that's on them, not me. Grandpa Leonard gave me more than money. He gave me permission to stop shrinking, to stop apologizing, to build a life that honored the person I actually was. And that's exactly what I did. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. And if you've made it this far, thank you for listening, for seeing. It means more than you know. Live well, build boundaries, and never apologize for taking